I've been making what I believe is the most analytical content for Elden Ring on YouTube for a while now. I do realize sometimes the nature of the content might not always be interesting, and there isn't always the convenient Lorettas to liven the mood up. So today we're going to be doing something a bit different once again. I'm going to be telling you a story of a character in Elden Ring while still optimizing to show you how optimization can be used in PVE when you're just having fun. This is part 1 of the story, and if I do say so myself, the story will take quite the interesting turn, especially in part 2. I hope you enjoy it. Anyway, let's get the story started by introducing our dear main character, the Spartan. His name, not important, but from the quote he gave me, you can probably figure out what kind of character he is. Our dear Spartan was born a hero, to the delight of both his parents. This was the ideal Spartan baby, born to don the great golden armor of the Spartans. There were actually 2 versions of the armor. The first utilized the Three Sentinels gauntlets, which our Spartan in question chose. The second was the version with Guardian bracers. The metallic protection of the gauntlets allowed for better protection, while the Guardian bracers allowed for more dexterity to increase the hoplite's offensive prowess. Our dear Spartan cared more about keeping his fingers intact than killing the enemy. He planned on living for a long time, and was quite keen on keeping all 10 of his fingers. Killing was a job that could be left for his bloodthirsty brethren. Next comes the other equipment of the Spartans. The Erdtree Grey Shield allowed the Spartans to deal with heathens that used magic. Their stats are trained to meet this requirement, but our Spartan didn't believe in gods enough like his other brethren, which made the shield not quite as powerful as the weapon art scales to faith. But that was an issue he got around some other way to be discussed soon. The Frenzy Flame Seal weighed nothing, and it allowed him to cast useful incantations like Bestial Vitality and Flame Cleanse Me, which came in quite handy while he was visiting a particularly polluted lake. He did not blame his superiors for sending him there. If he was in their shoes, he wouldn't have wanted to visit such an accursed place himself. Obviously, leave it to the lackeys to do the dirty work. Why the hell else would you need them? As for the weapons that Spartans were equipped with, first came the short spear that all had to learn to use. The heavy attack of the short spear works particularly well with the bloody nature of their spear to quickly apply blood. Second came a curved sword, but his curved sword was not the falchion that regular Spartans used. It was a curved sword by the name of Silence. Others thought the Spartan named it because it brought eternal silence to his foes, but to his father who gave him the blade, it meant something else entirely. It turns out that our dear Spartan's father was once a marshal. His father went overseas for some expeditions. On one such occasion, he fought off the king of bandits. Wait, sorry, not the pirate king. He fought the bandit king and took the sword off his dead corpse. His father's sharp eye made him realize the potential of the weapon immediately. He didn't become a marshal with his muscles alone. With the Spartan stat spread, this weapon was better than the falchion, even after taking into account the difference in weight, and certainly better than the shamshir the dumb Persians used. The Persians with their flimsy blade doing the stupid dance on their light attacks was no match for the steady Spartans' advance. Everybody knew that. Just look at the first Persian invasion 10 years ago. Our dear Spartan's father gave this weapon to him at the tender age of 15 to shut him up. It turns out that his father had a bit too much to drink, and drunk men, unlike dead men, tell many tales. One such unfortunate tale his father told was of a gorgeous woman he met overseas at a tavern. Her attractive smile suited her beautiful face and long silky hair. Not to mention, she had a perfect pair of breasts. She caught his eye and he caught hers. That night, his father did not sleep with the rest of his soldiers. Fill in the rest of the blank by yourself. But it certainly wasn't a story for the Spartan's mother. That was for damn sure. They both knew it. And that was how the blade was named. The strength investment was for wielding the great shield, but investing into dexterity now would yield more attack rating, which was the Spartan's training plan when he got more levels. The 2 weapon arts he learned were the standard issues of the Agoge, a rigorous training program all male Spartans other than the firstborn sons of the ruling class had to attend. Storm Assault allowed the hoplites to jump down on their poor foes in the most heroic fashion. However, our dear Spartan did not share the sentiment of his fellow students and found the move borderline foolish. What goes up must come down. His peers were still young of mind, and could not see that there will be no beauties admiring their perfectly executed dive on the battlefield, only enemies waiting with swords and spears. After all, you can't change directions while you're in the air. He preferred the more practical move, the double slash. The double slash, although ridiculed by some of his peers for its mundanity, was a simple yet effective maneuver. He loved the weapon art for its simplicity and quick striking combo, allowing him to quickly apply the bleed-inducing wounds that whittles his opponents down. For a little ant trying to fell a giant, it was very effective as long as the giant in question wasn't immune to bleed. As for the talismans, things are simple here. The great jars and millicents are mostly for meeting requirements at this level, although the millicents also gives you a damage boost when you attack in succession. These can be replaced at higher levels. The Lord of Blood's Exaltation works really well with the bleed build, and the Dragon Crest Great Shield is just an overall great talisman in PVE, especially for our Spartan who doesn't want to die quite so young. However, this is a flex slot, which you can easily switch to something like the Curved Sword Talisman if you do plenty of guard counters, or the Shard of Alexander if you find yourself spamming weapon arts. These are also great options for when your level is high enough and no longer need the Great Jar's arsenal. After his training, the Spartan took on missions after missions to subjugate monsters all over the lands between, and foes of his empire. He used all he learned from the Gulch to win, whether it was mounted combat, incantations, shield pokes, guard counters, items, backstabs, or even summons. Living to see another day was all he cared about. How his opponents died was none of his concerns. Then one day, he suddenly received a letter. It was sealed with the seal of the Council of Elders. In it, written in the gravest and most urgent tone, was a letter that recalled the Spartan immediately. He was to fight against the invading Persians, led by Xerxes I, otherwise known as Xerxes the Great. The Spartan wasn't eager for war, but killing people or killing monsters were all the same to him. When he arrived before the council elders, he saw King Leonidas waiting with 298 other Spartans. Apparently, he was the last one to arrive, for the representative of the council spoke as soon as he entered the hall. The representative cleared his throat. As I am sure all of you know, the Persians are invading, but the Carnia is starting soon. It is tradition that we must cease all military activities during Carnia, and that includes going to war. This was a point the Spartan had been thinking about ever since he had received the letter. It seemed like the Persians knew they stood no chance after their first invasion. They had to pull underhanded tactics like this to even stand a chance. But the Spartans didn't hate them for it, for they were taught to do anything that must be done to win the war. The representative continued, "Our oracle priests have spoken to the gods. We cannot make an exception to this divine rule." Everyone in the hall suddenly spoke up in unison. "How are we going to fight the Persians? Do you want us to hand over Sparta because of a stupid rule?" "Silence! Silence!" the representative called out. "We realize the issue. Don't take your elders for fools. This is why King Leonidas is here. While we can't go to war, King Leonidas over here wishes to take a stroll. He wants to visit the land pass of Thermopylae. The weather seems awfully fine during the festival, doesn't it? The view must be great there. But a king can't go there by himself now, can he? So we're sending the 299 of you with him as bodyguards. You never know when a tiger would jump out from the shadows." "But there are no tigers at Thermopylae," one of the Spartans said. His friend standing next to him slapped him on the back of his head. "Shut up and just listen, you fool." Everyone laughed, and King Leonidas took the stage as the laughter diffused the tension. He looked at his fellow Spartans. 3 days, he said, which quieted everyone down. "We need to buy 3 days of time against the 100,000 strong that will visit Thermopylae. That's how long our stroll will need to last. Are you with me?" All but our dear Spartan roared in unison. "We're going to make this Battle of Thermopylae go down in history as one of the grandest victories," King Leonidas shouted. In his mind, the Spartan was thinking, "I've been serving the country for my entire life, and you want me to hold an entire army of Persians with only 299 of my fellow Spartans? That's a death sentence. You've got to be fucking kidding me. I'm out of here." But outwardly, he shouted in unison with his fellow hoplites, It's an honor to live and die for Sparta. It's an honor to fight with you, our king. The story will be continued in part 2, where our Spartan attempts to survive. But if you want to read another story by me or support my work, please buy my newly published fantasy novel, The House of Hounds, so that I can keep making YouTube videos. It's a carefully crafted story packed with mystery, adventure, and magic. Like and subscribe. See you next time.